You ever think about that one thing you just love to do? That little hobby you pour your heart into? Well, what if it could be more than just that? Today we're going to look at 3 incredible stories about people who took their passion and turned it into their entire profession. And trust me, their journeys are seriously inspiring.
So, let me ask you, just think about it for a second. What if that thing you do to unwind, the thing that makes you lose track of time, what if that became your job, your career? It's a huge thought, right? But for some people, it actually happens.
And this is really the heart of it all. You can think of any great passion project like a tiny, wild seed. At first, it might not look like much, but you give it the right attention, the right dedication, and that little seed can grow into something absolutely extraordinary. Let's see how.
Okay, so our first story is about a writer, and it starts in a small village with a young boy named Manny. He discovered that you don't need a paintbrush to be an artist. You can actually paint with words.
But here's the thing, Manny didn't start out as a bookworm. Not at all. He actually really struggled with reading and writing. The whole game changed because of his grandfather. The bedtime stories he would tell, they weren't just stories. They were the spark that lit up Manny's imagination and finally connected him to the magic of words.
And this led him to this just beautiful idea. Writing wasn't a chore for him anymore. As he puts it, writing is like painting our voice. It was his way of giving color and shape to all the ideas bouncing around in his head. What a cool way to think about it, right?
You can actually see his whole journey laid out step by step. First, he gets inspired by the stories. That makes him want to start reading by himself. Then, once he's reading, he gets the itch to start writing his own stories. And now, he wants to be a great author. See how one thing just flows right into the next when you're following a passion?
So yeah, what started out as this real struggle for him has totally transformed into this clear, powerful goal. That little spark from his grandfather's stories is now this roaring fire, and he's aiming to become a famous writer, just like his hero, R.K. Narayan.
All right, next up, let's talk about an artist named Ajay Kumar Garg. His story is just incredible, and it shows how a huge challenge can sometimes become the source of a truly unique talent.
When Ajay was only 3 years old, an injury meant he lost his hearing permanently. Now, during that incredibly tough time, his dad gave him a paint set. And that simple gift, well, it turned out to be the key that unlocked a whole new world for him. It gave him a powerful new voice without ever needing to say a word.
And talk about turning a challenge into a superpower. He didn't just cope with his circumstances. He poured all of that focus into his art, and it paid off, big time. He eventually became a national award-winning artist celebrated all over the world.
And the level of his skill is just wow. Ajay works in traditional Indian miniature painting, which demands insane precision. He became a master of painting with a single-haired brush. Just let that sink in. A paintbrush made from one single hair. The dedication that takes is unbelievable.
So what's with the number 144? Well, this number, it kind of represents the moment everything changed. At one of his exhibitions, he showed 150 of his paintings, and by the end, he had sold 144 of them. That was it. That was the moment it was undeniable. This wasn't a hobby anymore. This was a thriving career.
And for our last story, we have a champion. This is about Ila Vajagi, a carom player who didn't just chase her own dream. She grabbed the one her father had to let go of.
Her story begins here, in a one-room apartment in Chennai. Her dad was a district-level carom champion himself, but because of their circumstances, he had to give up on his dream. So he poured every bit of that passion, every bit of his knowledge, into his daughter.
And from that tiny one-room apartment came this, an incredible 260 medals from national competitions alone. I mean, their home literally wasn't big enough to hold all of her trophies.
And she didn't stop there. She took on the world. She became the world carom champion in France. She won the World Cup in the USA. She wasn't just living her dream. She was finishing the story her father started, turning a family passion into a global legacy. So there you have it. A writer, an artist, a champion. 3 completely different journeys, but with so much in common. So what's the big takeaway here? Let's connect the dots.
We come all the way back to that idea of the wild seed. Every single one of them, Manny, Ajay, and Ila Vajagi, they all started with just a little spark, a simple interest, but they nurtured it with so much dedication and hard work that it grew into something huge, a career they truly loved.
And if you look closely, you see these common threads. Every one of them had a mentor, a grandfather, a father, someone to guide them. They didn't run from challenges, they leaned into them.
They poured thousands of hours into practicing and nurturing that passion. And maybe the most important thing, they each got to define what success looked like on their own terms.
And so, that brings it all back to you. After hearing all this, think about your own life, your own interests. The only question left to ask is, what wild seed are you cultivating?